Hello, BookTube. Well, it happened once again. I got ninja mail late at night, tucked into a corner around the corner from the house by a weekend shift UPS driver who clearly I've never known, who thought that he should hide my mail. And he very nearly did a good enough job of hiding it from me so that I never found it. But it was found, and so we have mail for a Sunday, even though Sunday is a day of rest. And I should apologize ahead of time. A Sunday is very much not a day of rest for the traffic here at Hyde Cottage. This is a prime day for drag racing and thunder engines and whatnot. So we'll just have to put up with that. I've got 3 packages here, including 2 boxes. And one of the boxes I glanced at and I know what it is. I know where it comes from. But we're going to have a lot of fun opening it anyway. But first we'll deal with the mail from publishers. So what is due? I touched an invoice. Gross. Oh. Okay, well, we start off on a really good note. No sell sheet here, but I'm sure this comes out in November. I'm sure, either late October or November. This is by Pat Shipman, and it's called Our Oldest Companions, the story of the first dogs. Now, I know what you're going to say, or you know what I'm going to say, which is that there's only one two-legged creature anywhere in the world who is fit to tell this story. That's me. But that applies more to the nature of dogs as they are now, especially training dogs or communicating with your dog, how to talk with your dog, all that sort of thing. It doesn't so much apply to paleobiology, where I'm perfectly happy to cede the lead to other people, including Pat Shipman, who is the author of many books, including The Invaders, The Animal Connection, and The Ape in the Tree. She is a fellow of the American Association of the Advancement of Science and the Royal Geographical Society of London. And this is from the Belknap Press of Harvard University Press, which we can certainly read about anyway, without a sheet. Dogs and humans have been inseparable for more than 40,000 years. The relationship has proved to be a pivotal development in our evolutionary history. The same is also true for our canine friends. Our connection with them has had as much to do with their essential survival and nature. How and why did humans and dogs find their futures together, and how have these close companions literally shaped each other? In this book, the author untangles the genetic and archaeological evidence of the first dogs. She follows the trail of the wolf dog, neither prehistoric wolf nor modern dog, whose bones offer tantalizing clues about the earliest stages of domestication. She considers the enigma of the dingo, not quite domesticated, yet not entirely wild, who has lived intimately with humans for thousands of years while actively resisting control or training. She tells how scientists are shedding new light on the origins of the unique relationship between our two species, revealing how deep bonds form between animals and canines as our guardians, playmates, shepherds, and hunters. So I have an e-copy of this, and I dipped a toe in it, but I'm going to be very happy to reread the whole thing closely in detail with a pencil in hand now that I have the finished copy. That is great. So any of you who have dog people on your gift-giving list, we're heading into that season. On the calendar, anyway. It's still high summer, but in terms of weather. But on the calendar, we're getting closer and closer to November. It's going to be very, very strange to have 97% humidity and mid-80s Fahrenheit temperatures in November. That's going to be very strange. That has never happened to me before in New England. But whatever the temperature is, if you know somebody on your list who's a dog person, obviously you want to know this. You want to jot this down. So that's great. Glad to have a finished copy of that. Then we'll do this next one here. Slightly bigger box. What have we got here? I don't see any pub sheet on this thing. Oh, wait a minute. Is this a gift from one of you? Oh, it is. This is a gift from one of you. Must be. It doesn't have any kind of... Oh! I only mentioned this. This is a flagrant violation of rule number 1. If I mention that I don't have something or that I'm impatient to read it but it doesn't come out until next year, that doesn't mean you're supposed to run off and spend your own money on me. Buying me books is the definition of bringing coals to Newcastle. And then I'm not going to yell because I'm very, very happy. This is Richard Overy's big new book, Blood and Ruins, The Great Imperial War, 1931 to 1945. I've seen this on some UK booktuber channels and salivated over it. It doesn't come out in America until the spring. I love this author. And this is his big, oh my, one of you was very, very nice to do this. It was very, very nice, but this is a flagrant violation of rule number 1. What have we got here, though, as long as we're looking at this? Richard Overy sets out in Blood and Ruins to recast the way in which we view the Second World War and its origins and aftermath. He argues that this was the Great Imperial War, a violent end to almost a century of global imperial expansion which reached its peak with the ambitions of Italy, Germany, and Japan in the 1930s and early 1940s, before descending into the largest and costliest war in human history, and the end, after 1945, of all territorial empires. How war on a huge scale was fought, supplied, paid for, and supported by mass mobilization and morally justified forms the heart of this new account. Above all, the author explains the bitter cost for those involved in fighting and the exceptional level of crime and atrocity that mark these imperial projects, the war and its aftermath. This war was as deadly for civilians as it was for the military, a war to the death over the future of the global order. Okay, well, let's see, end papers, nice, getting something to look at instead of blank paper. Fantastic. Wow, one of you was very nice to send this to me. That is just incredible. I don't agree with the premise at all. If the premise can be boiled down to the simple statement World War II was colonial in nature, was about colonialism, about imperialism, then that statement is just flat wrong. It's demonstrably, factually wrong. I have to assume that Richard Overy, who's a very smart author, is going to make a more nuanced case than that, because that statement alone, that's what that description that we just read boils down to, and that is simply false. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what kind of a job he does with this. We're not talking here about the United States versus the Empire of Japan for control of the Pacific. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about World War II. And World War II is Hitler. The two are indistinct. You cannot extricate one from the other. And the minute you start talking about Hitler, you stop largely, 99%, talking about anything to do with imperial conquest. So we shall see. We'll see. The author will do a great job. He's never let me down. And now I have this book. That's incredible. And since this, I mean, one of you sent me the UK editions, Alan Lane. One of you sent me the UK edition, which is out right now in the UK. So I think by a technicality, I can probably read this in 2021 without waiting until I get my US copy. I don't know. The only reason I have to worry about trivial details like this is because you're all so generous. Then we have the last box. It is a big priority mail box, and I already glanced at it. I know that it comes from the old house up in Vermont. There's a steady stream of mail between the old house up in Vermont, where Mark Richardson, the booktuber from Richardson Reads, Mark Richardson and I are forever finding things that the other might want and sending them off. It's very nice. It's very generous. But nevertheless, despite that fact, it is only an approximation. It's the second best thing that could happen here. Is that the priority mailboxes are flowing back and forth between the two places is the second best thing. The best thing would be for the Bean and I to be up there. Despite the bears, we would be enjoying ourselves, I'm sure. But what have we got here? I think I know what's in here. Okay, so one of the things I actually asked for, because Mark and his wife have a great local comic shop, and they go to it regularly. I haven't put my comic shop back on my route. And Barnes & Noble, the big retail bookstore chain here in America, there's a Barnes & Noble that is on my route once a week. And they used to carry comic books, but they don't anymore. So I would have to... I haven't put my comic shop back on my route. So when I see a new issue that I really want, I sort of drop a wheedling line to Mark to add it onto his list. Oh, great. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, okay. He outdid himself here. Because the thing that I want is this new series from Dynamite, Red Sonja. This is issue number 2, where I believe we're getting Red Sonja's origin story, but I'm not really sure. I liked issue number 1, although I wasn't crazy about the fact that a good solid 50% of this comic is full color ads. a good solid 50%. There's probably about 10 pages of story and writing here. And that was the one thing I didn't like. I know Dynamite has to pay the bills. But even so, this is the thing that I asked for. So that's wonderful to get this and continue the story. But then Mark he sent me other stuff too. We've seen this on this channel. This is from Ablaze. They unfortunately follow Dynamite's marketing strategy because you're only going to get 10 pages of story or artwork in these issues either, at most. But we've seen these already. This is issue number 2 and issue number 3 of Conan the Cimmerian, Iron Shadows on the Moon, where Conan and a buxom young lady find themselves trapped in an old temple where the statues come alive on a deserted and ghost-haunted island. And it's a terrific. Shadows in the Moon is a terrific story by Robert E. Howard. It's been adapted many times. Every time Conan's ever had a comic book, someone's adapted it. And these are reprints of European comics that adapted this story, and hence the title, because Conan is in the public domain in Europe. So, that won't get you out of all questions of copyright. But if you call your thing the Cimmerian instead of Conan the Barbarian, you can get away with it without paying the Howard estate anything. And I got the first issue of this. I think I got the second one as well, and then stopped. So this is great. This is fantastic. But we're not done. There's lots else in here. There's a book. Yes, Mark just hauled this on his channel, and I squeed for it, and he sent it to me. Bless him. This is a gigantic collection of the letters of the Mitford sisters. Huge thing that I had once upon a time. I got this from the publisher in hardcover back when it first came out. When was that? 2007. I got this for Open Letters Monthly, the online literary journal where I was the managing editor. In 2007, Open Letters Monthly was just barely starting out. It was just barely getting off the ground. It was still not read or known by most people. But I'd already been down that road before with a couple of other small journals, literary journals of one kind or another. And I put myself sort of informally in charge of making us known to publishers, getting requests out there, requesting everything that looks good, getting the catalogs in the mail, all that sort of thing, getting that up and running so we have a steady supply of new books. A couple of those publicists that I dealt with originally, all those years ago, remembered me from when I used to be a book reviewer, and some of them remembered me from when I was a bookseller. A lot of the ones for Boston and New York-based publishing houses would sometimes come to the bookstore to give a live presentation of their next season of books. And I guess I mean, these were the good old days when we had readers in the bookstore. But even so, I probably read more than any of them and knew all of the backlist. And that, I guess, sticks in some publicists' minds. I started getting yeses, is what I'm trying to say. Back in 2007, I got this, but it's long since gone. Long since gone. I'm overjoyed to have this. That is fantastic. Just the Mitford sisters were utterly fascinating. I've written about them at length. If I remember to do it, I will leave links to any writing down below. I reviewed, for instance, one of the little flyweight memoirs of Deborah Mitford, the Duchess of Devonshire, who was a fascinating character, probably next to Jessica, the most interesting of the Mitford sisters, and who was known, the nickname in her family, the Mitfords couldn't live without nicknaming everything that moved, and her nickname in the family was Debo, of course, fairly easy thing, and she was an outgoing personality. Her husband was a bit of a train wreck, but she was an outgoing personality and very savvy, and attracted smart people, and one of whom was President John F. Kennedy, who used to joke when he was on the phone with the British Prime Minister. He would joke. He would conclude the call by saying, "How are things at NATO? How are things at CEDO? How are things with Debo?" So, and I have a collection of her sister's letters. And I've written about those as well. But I'll try to leave links down below. I might even have written about this book. I was, in those early years of getting publisher requests for open letters, I was trying my hardest to review a lot of what we got, just to show the publishers that we were out there and that their generosity was not being thrown away on nothing, on this thing they'd never heard of. Oh, those were fun. Those raucous early days were fun. Very nice for Mark. He just found this in one of his ubiquitous Vermont mail hauls, and he just surrendered it right away. It's like I say, like I say about him, he's infinitely generous. It's to the point where you have to stop it from happening because he won't. But the next time I didn't want to, I saw this on his channel for his haul, and I thought the Brattle will provide. I want that copy. I will get a copy of it at the Brattle Bookshop sooner or later. And now I can say that with a little less urgency. The Brattle will provide for him. I will find a copy for him. And I think that's it. There's just packing material for the rest of this. Yeah, there are no more books in here. Oh my! Oh, the packing material is oh! Oh goodness gracious! No, the packing material is the London Review of Books. Incredible! Oh, I will read these today. I'll pore over these lovingly today. I just noticed the other day that the London Review of Books has stopped coming here to Hyde Cottage. And I found a subscription card here. I filled it out. I put it in an envelope with a check. I sent it off, and it came back, address unknown. They may be trying to give me the slip, but the Richardson family can attest to the fact that you can't give me the slip. Fantastic. A couple of issues of London Review. There's also a couple of New York Review of Books in here. Those have kept coming. But these London reviews are brand new to me. Incredible. What have we got here? What have we got here? Seamus Perry reviews that new D.H. Lawrence book, Burning Man. The Thomas Kamer reviews The Paper Chase. About time, after all this time. Who else have we got here? A new book on the Tulsa Massacre. I haven't read it. Andrew Cockburn is in this issue. Fantastic. And then what about the next one? What's this other one? Okay, Michael Wood writes on Paul Celan. That's going to be a miss for me. But Alison Light reviews that controversial biography of Barbara Pym, The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne. That I haven't read that. That's going to be a lot of fun to read. Let's see here. A book on missing persons that I've never seen before. Let the Record Show. So Adam Mars-Jones, who's one of my favorite members of my own profession, reviews a new book on a new history of ACT UP, the New York organization ACT UP. I know that history very well. His piece is going to be fantastic to read. Just fantastic. I bet he knows it better than I do. Wow. Oh, this is just great. This is just fantastic. Okay, so I've got to... This isn't packing. This is a ton of reviews that I've got. I'll look over these New York reviews in case I missed something in them. And now I have these London reviews, which is awesome. That is incredible. So that's the mail. That is the Ninja Mail. I have some London reviews to read right away. I mean, I'll read that as soon as I turn off this camera. Then I've got the Mitfords, a gigantic collection of their letters. This is not an almost equally big group biography of them. That came out right about the same time. This is not that. This is just their letters, plus a smattering of Robert E. Howard in the mail, including Red Sonja. Then one of you sent me Blood and Ruins by Richard Overy, the UK edition. When I'm going to get the American edition, I'm going to get it. This was just incredibly generous. All of this is just an incredibly generous mail haul. And finally, Our Oldest Companions by Pat Shipman, the finished copy of her book on the history of the human relationship with dogs. So this is a mail haul that's all over the map, but it's the kind I love. Absolutely. Wonderful. All right, well, I'm gonna turn off this camera and buckle down with these London Review of Books. I feel like I'm missing a limb when I'm not up on what my own profession is saying. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.